Last year, I was struggling with recovery. I was having a really hard time doing hard workouts and then actually getting stronger. And so I kind of took a step back and I thought, what can I do that is not as strenuous as some of the strength training that I do? And I decided to do juggling. I thought that's something that is very skill-based, will get my brain working, will get my coordination working, and I can have a lot of fun with that without really physically straining myself as much as my strength training did. And so I reached out to Emmett Lewis because I knew he had done some juggling and was very familiar with that community. And I said, Emmett, how can I get started? And being the amazing coach he is, he came back with, well, what are your goals? What do you want to be able to do? And as a kind of a joke, or maybe a 5 years in the future goal, I sent him this video of this hand balancer / juggler who was combining juggling with hand balances. She was throwing balls, catching them on her feet, kicking up to handstand, doing all these really amazing, incredible things. I was like, yeah, just this. And so he came back and was like, yeah, check out this person. And he hooked me up with Ariane, who was at the time doing some online training because she was in lockdown from COVID. So I kind of lucked out there. It's not something she was doing before. So I had some sessions with her, and every session, it wasn't just that she was teaching me the skill of foot juggling, which was so much fun, but it was also the training tips she gave me. And I found myself just writing down these little things every session, oh, that's gold. I'm going to use that for not just foot juggling, for handstands, for roller skating, for all the other things that I want to do. It was just oh, yeah, that one's good. That's good. It was just, she is not just this amazing juggler. She also has this wealth of knowledge about training and how to get really good at what it is you're passionate about. And so I really wanted to bring her on to the show to talk to you guys just about training. And we cover a lot of other things as well. Ariane has been performing in the circus for a long time, and we'll talk about that in the show. She's also a producer, a choreographer, a coach, and we'll look at some videos and you'll see how she combines this technical juggling, these difficult tricks, with this beautiful movement and this beautiful emotion. And it is incredible to watch, and it is incredible to listen to her. And so I hope you enjoy this conversation with Ariane. So hi, Ariane. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to start, you're a foot juggler. And up until last year, I didn't really know anything about what that was, what that involved. And so I was just wondering if you would talk a little bit about what foot juggling is and what your experience with it, how long have you been doing it, that kind of stuff.
The way I understand foot juggling, it's something that is pretty new. There is a classical circus discipline that is called antipodism in most cultures I move in, which is manipulating things with your feet. They usually lie on a chair. It's called trinka. Yeah, but usually they manipulate big objects. You see it a lot with basketball these days, or with these, they are called cigars, these big rolls that are spun in the air. And that's classical antipodism, or people also call it foot juggling. And then foot juggling, how I see it, is when modern day jugglers thought about classical antipodism and started mixing the two things. So what I do is I just lie on the floor and I juggle normal juggling balls with my feet and my hands, and I translate juggling patterns that I know from standing juggling into this thing that my feet are helping the pattern or making it more interesting, or things like this. So basically I use techniques from modern juggling, from contemporary juggling, and put them onto using my feet as well. I'm also standing a lot and using my feet. And for me, this is what I call foot juggling. And then it depends, I guess, who you talk to. People might have different ideas about this.
No, that's perfect. And how long have you been practicing this art?
I started juggling, like normal juggling, I started 22 years ago. I am that old. Yay. And foot juggling I discovered pretty early, but it took me ages to balance that one ball on my foot, and it was so discouraging. But then I met a wonderful other juggler. Her name is Roxana. I work with her now, and she was only juggling with her feet and hands lying down. And I saw this, and I was like, well, if she doesn't think that it's difficult, then maybe it's not difficult for me either. And if I just believe that it's not difficult, I can do that. And that was like, when did I meet her? 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And that's when I really started. I was already standing, juggling with my feet a lot, but this lying down thing, I started mostly with her and then trained really hard.
Yeah, awesome. I want to get into a lot of that stuff in a second, especially like how you went from struggling to balance one ball to just being where you are right now, which is just incredible. But just, I want to get a little more background on like, this is something that I've always seen as like this amazing place. And how do you get into that? Like as a kid growing up doing gymnastics, like it didn't even occur to me that you could join the circus or you could do circus. Like how did you get into it?
By accident. So both my parents are artists. I was in my mother is a dancer, my father a musician, and I was in touch with this and with being on stage my entire life. This was close to me. And then at some point I left university in order to also become some kind of performer. I didn't really know what I wanted. The only thing that was open for me as an idea in my head even was going to theater school and becoming an actress, because that's what women do, you know, when they either become a dancer or they become an actress. And I had really good dance training, but I was in no way good enough to compete with the dancers that are out there. So I auditioned for acting schools, for theater schools. They all told me no. Well, basically, they all told me that I was good, but I wouldn't fit any classical roles. In theater, there is very clear roles, especially for women, which kind of character you can play, which kind of character comes up in plays. And I didn't fit any of them. I'm no Juliet. Sorry. And they said, oh, but you juggle and you're so physical and you dance. Why don't you go to circus school? And I was like, circus school, what is that? And so basically I sat at home Googling circus school and found one in Berlin that I auditioned for, and they took me, and then that's what happened.
It was meant to be.
I hope so. I tell myself so.
Yes.
No, it's it was really accidental. I loved the circus when I was a kid, but it seemed like, you know, circus that's for, you're either born into it or it's not for you somehow.
Yep.
And especially in Austria, where I grew up, circus is not so present. You get a few small family circus. There is one huge circus, Circus Roncalli, that is in the surrounding very, very often and very present. But yeah, still, like, how it's a different world. You're not told, oh, you could possibly do this. Even when I started juggling, it was a hobby, not a job. So this kind of thing.
When you were a kid, were you always into movement things? Like you said you did dance, but were you into juggling and any acrobatics and things like that as a kid?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I started training classical dance at 3 years old, 3 times a week. There was this idea that I would become a professional dancer, but then I struggled a lot with it. And when I got older, with like the rigidness of it. But I have memories of standing in the kitchen and training cartwheels and trying to get it right. And my mom always saying, "Oh, that's not a cartwheel." I mean, like, yeah, sure, that's a cartwheel. Like, don't you see I'm on my hands? And yeah, all this thing of climbing trees and cycling and stuff, I like it. And then juggling, I started at 12 years old because of a teacher in my school. He would teach people juggling, and I was unicycling. And
it's funny how sorry, I was just going to say, it's interesting when you meet somebody that just sparks something in you and you're like, I'd like to learn that looks cool, and then where it takes you after that. That's cool that it was a teacher that originally just introduced you to juggling.
And not just that, he also introduced me to snowboarding, which I absolutely love.
Cool.
He's my hero.
I was actually going to say, is he still got that little spark in your heart? Because I have a teacher like that, that was from school. One of just the rare people in life that take an interest in really helping kids to grow. So he sounds like one of those guys as well.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Totally. He's a very important person in my life. Like, I owe him my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get into like your training and how you've gotten where you've gotten with juggling, right? So this guy sparked your interest with juggling, but then like what you do is very like there's two sides to it. There's the extreme like technical difficult side of foot juggling, like catching balls on your feet and throwing balls and then doing all these patterns which just are incredibly technical. But then there's also this very artistic side to what you do. Like it's almost like a dance performance. Like it is a dance performance. And so when you're training, do you approach these two aspects differently, or is it just kind of combined into one?
Both. Like in my thinking, I try to not. I don't really like to make a difference between technique and the artistic. I think it's kind of the same thing. No, like the juggling is the art. It's my form of expression. And the juggling goes with the movement, like then people come to me and say, "Oh, you mix juggling and dance," and I'm like, no. Like the juggling makes my body move, the movement of my body makes the juggling happen. So it's really just about exploring this. And in training, I make in so far a difference as I make parts of my training sessions are real technical, where I'm like, I have this goal that I want to reach, I have this trick, and I repeat it. Okay. And I really, or I split it apart, like technical training. And then I have sessions, like moments in my sessions where I improvise freely, or where I explore a certain concept, and that's probably more than the artistic side of things. But again, it's the thing that I explore is a technical thing. So I don't really take them apart so much.
That makes sense. And so when you say you explore concepts, like what would that look like? What would a concept be that you'd be exploring?
So sometimes it's improvisation or creation methods that I learned in school or in workshops or from teachers that I would play in order to find something new. Sometimes it's just like one movement that I found and I find it extremely interesting. So I want more like this. And then I just try to, sometimes I do then one movement 500 times just to see what the movement is, and then maybe something happens by itself. No, because my brain gets so bored that I start doing something that is still inside of this idea.
Yeah.
And then I take this as a like new step. And yeah, but then sometimes it's really general things. Like for my new solo, I want a big part where I'm constantly turning. I never stop turning. So I go and I explore this. I have one ball and I'm turning, and let's see what is possible with one ball and constantly turning, never stopping. Changing direction is allowed. I realized I like it a lot, but it's never stopping. And this is for me a concept that I explored, and and then I get very dizzy and fall over.
Yeah.
So with the turning, is there do you ever, like, I remember you got me doing some turning stuff, and my TV was definitely at risk. Do you have moments like that where you just fling a ball and it smacks someone else or breaks something? Or
a few years ago, I bought a very new shiny MacBook. I think there is a general understanding of what they cost. And our training space had just burned, so I couldn't train in the training space. I had to train in my room. I was preparing for a festival, and I have a big bowl of tea because I drink a lot of herbal tea, and I put the herbal tea far away from my computer because I think that, yeah, this is a dangerous mixture, they shouldn't be close to each other, and I play the music that I need for over my computer, so they kind of both need to be here, but far away. And I had in my act so smash catches, so I throw a ball and I smash it out of the air. And sometimes you don't catch them. And I don't catch the smashed ball. The smashed ball goes to the bowl full of tea, takes the bowl with the tea. I don't know how it's physically even possible, and brings it all over the new shiny MacBook. And that was the end of my new shiny MacBook.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I had a feeling when you started that there's going to be a story here when you put your head in your hand. The MacBook. Oh dear.
No, I have a lot of stories like this. That was actually in a performance where I broke my own nose, and things like this. So yes, it happens a lot to me. I'm very clumsy, actually. I'm the most clumsy person in the world, just to be clear about this. People, when they see me in real life, they're like, how can you be a juggler? Like, you can't even catch a key that is thrown at you, or I don't know. Impossible.